Stan Hartzler joins us. He's a veteran teacher of 38 years. Mary Bowen is also here. She's currently an elementary school teacher. And Pat is here because he's working with me on something for the American Dream Labs. And we also have a state senator who's going to be joining us in a second who's standing up on this. But I want to spend just a couple of minutes with the two of you guys. You're currently teaching.
Yes.
And you're speaking out even though you signed a really huge non-disclosure form.
Right.
Why did you choose to do that, and how's that working out for you?
Well, first of all, as a teacher, of course, I believe that I'm an advocate for children primarily. And the thing of it is I'm a patriot. So the way I look at schools, I see them as a three-legged stool. And before CSCOPE came along, parents would be able to preview curricular materials before they were purchased. They'd be available to look at. Parents would have a say, teachers would have a say, and when CSCOPE came on board in our schools, I realized that two of the legs of the stools were just eliminated. And what CSCOPE basically does is it sets up a system where all of the control and the power in the schools is in one place, and that's with the school leadership.
You teach fifth grade, all
Yes.
subjects.
Yes.
What's the craziest thing that when you started looking at it, you were like, what made you go, Was there one thing?
Well, it was very mediocre instruction, for starters. The teachers come into classrooms with dynamic lessons and certainly a high ethical standard for providing true information, and CSCOPE was riddled with errors, tests were invalid, and so there was just a mediocrity of instruction. And I'm passionate about students and I want to provide really wonderful instruction, but anyway, CSCOPE comes with a lot of coercion. So along with implementing it, there are chronic walkthroughs in the classroom where people troop in while the students are learning and while you're teaching with clipboards, numerous people checking off to see if you're saying the exact same lesson on the exact same day in the exact same way as the other teachers up and down the halls. There's tremendous coercion. It's a very oppressive environment.
Do the teachers talk about this? Let me bring this in. Do you talk amongst yourself? Because you were written up how many times?
I'm just guessing, maybe 10 or 12
Okay, because you refused to teach it.
I really kind of did my best, but at the same time I had to be aware of my students' weaknesses and needs and so on, and so I would try to meet those needs at the same time that I was trying to please my principal.
Did the teachers talk about this amongst themselves? Like, what is this going on?
Well, absolutely, yes, they do. But we have seen teachers who have been fired or have been eliminated because they've been willing to go before school boards and speak out.
So, would you say the majority, the 50-50, or the minority are saying this is nuts?
The majority of teachers feel that CSCOPE provides instruction that's very mediocre.
What do you say when a parent comes to you and says, hey, I want to know what you're teaching. My son or daughter came home and they said you're teaching about socialism and communism is great. What are you teaching? Show me what you're teaching. What do you say?
In my case, of course, it was mathematics.
Right.
But I violated the gag order right away. I was just about as quickly as I could. I was thinking, all right, do this to me. Martin Luther King went to jail for liberty, and so will I. And I showed them why it was that the students were struggling. I explained where it was that we should be going with this and so on.
Why does this is not a Texas story? Go ahead. It's
not, because it began with a federal initiative. See, CSCOPE is part of mining our students for data. Under the Obama administration, there was what is called the K through 20 initiative to try to garner data, to try to gather data up. So every state was mandated.
That's spooky.
Every state was mandated to put into place a system to gather up this data.
Data on what?
Well, that's where all the oppressive testing comes in through CSCOPE. Glenn, we spend 1 out of every 5 instructional days in our classroom testing students. Well, that's all providing numbers, and so the child is like on a conveyor belt. They've become a number.
Oh, this is so horrible.
And the greatest outrage, I had outrage about this from the first bad lesson that I had to present to the students. I went home that first night retyped it, twice as long but much clearer, worked much better. But my outrage really boiled over when I started with this testing program. Imagine, if you can, having to take a spelling test, okay? You practice some spelling words. Now, of course, this is fictitious because CSCOPE doesn't even have spelling, okay? But you prepare for a spelling test, and the teacher's reading words, and then the teacher reads a word like sequoia that you have never seen and never heard. Imagine that is one of your requirements on your test. That's the kind of testing that CSCOPE has. There are a fair number of questions on every test that the students have not explored. Imagine the students' frustration.
Are they setting up? I mean, I know they're setting up failure for our nation, because just what I have seen, you will not be able to navigate in life if you come out of a school district that has taught you this.
Amen to that. Amen in math, especially.
75% of Texas is running this, and they did it, David, if I'm not mistaken, because there were cost-cutting measures or something.
Well,
right?
It's a much cheaper way of going after things than others, and the educational service centers are promoting as well.
Okay, so the people who are doing this are teachers. The ones who came up with this curriculum are teachers.
I would call them educrats, not teachers.
Yes.
I don't call them educators, I call them educrats.
All right. You were going to say something? No. Mary, and both of you, really, this is going to be moved in, stuff like this, through Obama's presidency now. In the next 12 to 24 months, this is kind of going nationwide. Quickly, tell me what should a parent do? What should a parent do? What should a teacher do?
Well, you know, I'm a patriot, so I'm asking parents out there, where are our patriots showing up at their local school? The schools belong to the local community, and they should be stepping up to reclaim their local schools.
I'd like to be kind of specific about this if I could. I'd say the first thing they do is to get letters to the Attorney General and get rid of that special permission that the Attorney General gave CSCOPE to avoid all the state laws about scrutiny of materials. Okay, that would take care of a great many things. I think we need some emergency legislation to get teachers out from underneath this scripting business, so on. The textbooks back in the classroom.
All right, let me go to, because we're going to come back and we're going to go to a state senator who's working on some of this stuff that you're talking about next.